Hello and welcome to this quarterly update with SKAGEN Kon-Tiki and portfolio manager Knut Harald Nilsson. First, Knut Harald, SKAGEN Kon-Tiki is slightly behind its index in the third quarter. Give us a quick recap of what happened the last 3 months.
Yes, emerging markets has done fairly well in the fourth quarter. It's up more than 4%. As you said, we're somewhat behind. We don't feel we have got paid for over investments in the quarter, though 3 months is a short period. What you've seen in emerging market is that you saw that during the first and second quarter that the flow reversed. I think that is mainly based on some currencies has started to appreciate a little bit. You also seen earnings development in emerging market actually coming in the second quarter quite solid, relatively speaking. It's still on a low level, but it is improving. And I think that is the most important driver for emerging market return. So you've seen that so far this year, emerging market has started to outperform developed market for the first time in 4 years.
Like you said, emerging markets has been into the woods for quite some time now. What about the money inflow? Is that increasing or decreasing to the emerging markets?
Yeah, actually, over the past 3 years up to 2016, you saw $100 million leaving emerging market equity funds. So far this year, we have seen an inflow, and we actually see now more than a quarter of consecutive weekly inflow into emerging markets. And I think that is, as I said, a result of the fact the most important thing is the earnings development. You can talk about rates or whatever you want, but earnings is the most important, and I think that is what's going to catch up, make emerging market equities catch up.
The US elections are only a few weeks away. How robust is the SKAGEN Kon-Tiki portfolio with that in mind?
We obviously thought about that. I think what is the most risk is companies that are exporting into the US market, which has competitors in the US producing in the US. That is very limited. Our biggest position, Hyundai, they produce 70% of the vehicles sold in the US market, And for Samsung, they don't have any competitors producing in the US market. They produce memory chips in the US market, but everybody else does it. And that is for re-export into Asia to go into consumer goods anyway. So there are some companies that are partly exposed, but it's very, very limited. Like ABB, for example, they got 23,000 people working in the US alone. So you can say it's partly a US company as well.
All right. The Fed has announced that it might hike the rates in 2016. In your view, what will affect the markets and indeed the SKAGEN portfolio going forward?
I think this is something that is one of the most overplayed risk factors, in my opinion. Because why do they hike rates? First of all, that's because demand is good. So that is positive for all companies selling to the US consumers as well. And so they're hiking rates by 25 basis points. What we've seen historically is that the correlation between a rate hike and emerging market equity return is actually not negative. It's actually positive if you measure it over a period of more than 3 months. So I think the risk of this is clearly exaggerated by the market, in my opinion.
Great. Thank you very much, Knut Harald. And thank you very much for watching.